What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here with another 2-minute drill episode. Man, we almost did like another breaking news episode. We already had one today. We almost had to do another because, to be honest, all hell just broke loose in Athens, Georgia within like 30 minutes. So, Brandon, you're an LSU guy. I'm an Auburn guy. If we just land one 5-star recruit transfer in like a year, it's a good year. But of course, Georgia has found a way to land 2 impact 5-star transfers in 30 minutes today. They land 2 in Arik Gilbert and Derion Kendrick out of Clemson. Of course, Gilbert, LSU guy, committed to Florida and then decommitted from Florida. So I guess he's a Florida LSU transfer now, technically. But what a boss move to land the kid that your rival had like in the bag, and they're like, nah, we'll take him over here. We're gonna use him against you this year. But Brandon, let's just get our first opinion before we kind of break all these transfers down. What was just your initial reaction to Georgia being able to land both of these prospects within half an hour of each other?
To be totally honest with you, Zach, the first thing I did was I Googled Georgia football schedule 2021 because I could not find a world in which Georgia didn't just run the table here. Now, I mean, obviously they have the week 1 game against Clemson. That's going to be tough. Other than that, they have to play Florida at Florida, but that's a Florida team without Kyle Trask and without Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts. I was going to say a way more important loss than Kyle Pitts.
The Kyles. They have to play Auburn and Jordan Hare, but meh. I mean, we're talking about an offense with JT Daniels passing to Arik Gilbert, and we're talking about a defense who I think their only real hole was cornerback, and then Derion Kendrick says, you know what, I'm coming back home, transfers to Georgia. This team might be unstoppable. I don't see a world in which they don't end up in Atlanta in December playing probably Alabama. And that's going to be the real test right there. I mean, that's going to determine whether they're in the playoff or not. Because even if they lose to Clemson, dude, you're telling me one loss going into that SEC championship game, if you win that, you're in the playoff. That's that.
Yeah.
So that was my first reaction. I said, let's go look at their schedule because they can't lose.
So you said like they're a lock for Atlanta. Do you know where the national championship is this year? Isn't it in the Rose Bowl?
Is it? I'm not sure.
This is bad. This is bad radio or whatever. But I don't know where the national championship is.
Actually, what Zach's trying to get at is that they're probably a lock for that. Look.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No. Never mind. It's in Indianapolis, apparently.
Gross.
So write in Georgia's name to Indianapolis. I'm calling it. I'm calling my shot. I already had them winning the SEC. Shocker. Already, man, Brandon. Okay, I get. So we'll get into it in just a second. There are some eligibility issues with Arik Gilbert, but they lose George Pickens. Imagine, can we just for just a second? Can we just fancy my like imagination? Could you imagine an offense with JT Daniels, George Pickens, Arik Gilbert, and Darnell Washington?
Zach is an Auburn fan, and he's excited about this. That doesn't excite you, man. What's wrong?
I'm telling you. I mean, okay, so Brandon, you're an LSU guy, so you got to watch Arik Gilbert at his like weakest phase as a true freshman, no spring practice, dominate some teams. How in the world do you just – so a lot of teams struggle to match up with just Arik Gilbert. Does the team have 2 people capable of covering Darnell Washington and Arik Gilbert?
Zach, I'll say this. LSU's offense was led by Terrace Marshall Jr. last year. Arik Gilbert was definitely the number 2 guy in the offense, I'd say. I think he finished the season with 326 yards and 2 touchdowns in pretty limited play, actually. And there were a lot of games. I think this kind of contributed to his transfer out. They wouldn't target him. They just would not pass him the ball. But when they did, he was dominant. I mean, I don't know. If you think back to like the Missouri game, I think that's where he had both of his touchdowns. I don't know. It's crazy to me to think that this guy, as dominant as he seemed last season, like while we were watching, really didn't do all that much, but still played big. Like he played a lot bigger than he is, which is nuts because this dude's huge. I look. I would be a lot less like giggly and like thinking this was cool if LSU had to play Georgia next season, but they don't. And Georgia just can't seem to beat LSU anytime they play them. So that's all right. I will let this one slide. I will say, Zach, I've been on this train since we started this podcast. If a player wants to transfer back home, so be it. That's what Arik Gilbert's doing here, dude. He's transferring back to Georgia. I can't blame the kid. I know he had some issues at LSU. We're going to get into that, but I can't blame the kid for going back home.
Yeah, so I used to do a big intro, but I wanted to get first thoughts here. But Kendrick, let's start with him. He was the first announcement. 39 games of experience starting for Clemson over the past 3 years, Brandon. He was a wide receiver at first, moved to cornerback, was a second-team All-ACC selection. His first year, a first-team selection last season. And, he announced that he's coming, I guess, kind of back home. I think he's from the Georgia area, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a big need for Georgia, man. They lose Eric Stokes. They lose Tyson Campbell. Tyreek Stevenson transfers. But, Brandon, look at what they've done now. They replaced Tyreek Stevenson with Tyke Smith from West Virginia, who's probably a better player than Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah.
Then you replace, Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes with arguably a better player and Derion Kendrick. And you get to combine him, Brandon, with Keely Ringo, who a lot of people forget Georgia landed as the number one corner in his class.
Yeah. So Georgia went from just not having any cornerbacks last season to having every single cornerback in the country on their team. So this is, if Georgia's defense wasn't good enough, now they have a full secondary, and I don't know if a team's going to score on them this season. I honestly don't know.
And I didn't even mention they still also have Amir Speed and Jalen Kimber. Speed, a fifth-year senior, is the only returning guy with any, experience. And then on top of that, at safety, to add some depth, they land Alabama transfer defensive back Brandon Turnage earlier this year. So they turned their weakness into arguably the strength of their defense.
I think it's pretty safe to say that Kirby Smart's given out a little bit more than McDonald's bags in Athens because this is nuts. Everyone who's transferring this season said, let's go to Athens. Let's go to Georgia.
Well, what did Isaiah Thomas say to the Celtics? Back up the Brinks truck?
Yeah.
Didn't work out for him, so we'll see. But, and then Arik Gilbert, 6 foot, 250. I mean, good Lord. He announced a transfer to Florida on January 31st, revealed that, that's not where I'm going on the 28th. He told Dogs 247, quote, coming home. I believe it was a smart decision to come home. I wanted to be with and near my family. I've been missing all of my family, and now both my grandmothers will be able to see me play in person too. You got to love that. Regardless what kind of fans you are, you got to love when grandma gets to see them play in person. But, Brandon, he averaged 10.5 yards per catch, is the highest rated tight end recruit in 247 history. Come on, man. What else do you want from him? Good Lord.
Even better than that, Zach, I believe that in his transfer, he was listed as an athlete, not a tight end. So yeah. I'm interested to see what Georgia has in mind, because if they line this man up at wide receiver, if he was their wide receiver one, you don't think he'd win that job? You don't think he would be one of the best wide receivers in the country?
Well, so I don't think you'll have to play tight end, because I think Darnell Washington is probably a better tight end. But, man, what are you going to do? Even if they come out in a 2 tight end set, you might have to run nickel because they're going to burn a linebacker.
Oh, yeah. No, you cannot cover Arik Gilbert with a linebacker. You can't.
Yeah, but the problem is there's not many corners that are as big as Arik Gilbert either. So, it's going to be – and then, you also have the storyline now week 1, Derion Kendrick facing Clemson week 1 in Charlotte.
Well, that's game day.
It was already game day, but, man, now, and listen – I guess I'm giving away all my secrets here on June 2nd in terms of our fall programming schedule. I was already picking Georgia over Clemson week 1.
This guy. Okay.
And now it's like, duh. And okay, so Brent, I have to ask you, now that they've landed, before we get into the eligibility issues for Arik Gilbert, which I think are going to be a moot point because I don't think he would commit with eligibility issues, but forgetting that, if they're both eligible, is this kind of like a make or break year for Kirby Smart?
I think it has to be. I mean, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be because Arik Gilbert, he still has 4 years of eligibility left, Zach. He still has 4 years left. JT Daniels, I think, has 3 years left.
No, I think this is his last year, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it?
I thought.
He might have a year because of COVID. Yeah, I think he has 2 years left. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, it doesn't matter. 2 years there. Derion Kendrick has at least another year. So, I mean, there's opportunity for this team. If it's not this season, which it very well might be this season, but if it's not this season, these guys all play together for a year together, and then they come back next season. And what is that team? That's the scariest team in the history of the world if they come back seasoned.
I think the reason I'm thinking that JT doesn't have a lot of eligibility left is I don't think he stays after this year. I'd be shocked. But, man, if the reason I say is it a make or break year, Brandon, is if you don't win it this year, what's the excuse? Because Clemson, brand new quarterback, lost a lot of players to the transfer portal and things like that. Alabama, brand new quarterback, lost a lot of talent to the draft, isn't returning at anything at wide receiver, barely, except for Mechie. Auburn's on the downswing. LSU's rebuilding and isn't even on your schedule now. Florida's breaking in starters at almost every position. And now you don't have the quarterback excuse. You got JT Daniels. You don't have the surrounding talent excuse. George Pickens, guess you can lean on that. But now that you got Arik Gilbert, that becomes a mute argument. Your offensive line's there. Your defense is set. What's the excuse if you don't win it?
I know what it is. And I know a lot of Georgia fans are going to hate to hear this, but you're Georgia. I mean, people don't talk about this nearly enough, Zach. It's been 41 years since the last national championship for Georgia. It's been 31 since Georgia Tech's last national championship. So that's a tough look in and of itself. Georgia always finds a way, and I don't even hate Georgia fans the way that Zach might, the way that Auburn fans might, the way that a lot of SEC fans might, just because they can't beat LSU. So who cares? But they can't win it all, dude. And I hate to say that. I hate that for this team who has some passionate fans passionate enough to bark at you at their stadium. And so it sucks. But what I text you as soon as all this happened, Zach, I said Georgia's going to find a way. They're going to find a way to mess this up because they're Georgia. And if they aren't going to, this is the year to not. But mark my words, they're going to find a way to mess this up. I don't know. They're going to lose to Georgia Tech in the last week of the season, something like that.
So I mean, for me, I don't know if you feel the same way, but for me, this is the first year since when's the last year that Clemson and Alabama haven't been in a top 2 scenario for the national championship? Because I think the top 2 teams in the country right now at this point are Georgia and Oklahoma.
I think like 2012, like the year after Alabama won that national championship against LSU, I know Georgia was really good. Clemson and Alabama were pretty much nowhere to be found. So maybe then.
Maybe. I mean, but it's been a minute, to say the least. And right now I'm looking, and I think Oklahoma and Georgia, if everything goes according to plan, could wind up in the national championship. And how big will that be for the people who claim there's no parity in college football?
Right.
But I guess on the same hand, if Clemson and Alabama pull it out, then they might have a point. I might have to eat my words. But I mean, right now, this has to, for me, Brandon, these transfers, I know it might seem like short-sighted or just prisoner of the moment. I was already really considering picking Georgia as my national champion. This has to make them a favorite, right?
No, I mean, it definitely does. And I was tempted even, after that first Google search of Georgia 2021 football schedule, I was tempted to look up Georgia odds to win national championship. And I wanted to see how that line moved. Unfortunately, I didn't know the line beforehand, so it didn't really matter much. But I'm just saying, guys, if you can responsibly gamble, in a legalized state, I would say go take those odds right now. If you have the chance to go bet on Georgia to win it all, why not? It's probably what. Let me find out what it is, Zach. Take it away. I'll be right back.
But guys, comment below what y'all think about this transfer. Man, when I look at just Tyke Smith and Derion Kendrick on the back end of that defense is going to be absolutely disgusting. I think Keely Ringo is a breakout player of the year candidate for Georgia. When I look at the schedule outside of the Clemson game, I don't think there's anyone that can touch them in terms of SEC or anything like that. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule right now, but I mean, their biggest competition has been Florida, and let's be honest, I don't think Florida's going to be very good this year, especially after everything they lost. But they get Clemson and Charlotte, toughest game. They get UAB, South Carolina, Vandy, Arkansas after that. I don't think any of those teams are even in the same stratosphere as Georgia. You get that road game at Auburn, but under the first-year head coach Brian Harsin with Bo Nix, I don't know if Auburn can pull that one out. Then you get Kentucky, probably a win. They get a bye week also before Florida, Brandon, so that's going to be huge. Then you end the season with Missouri, Tennessee, Charleston Southern, and Georgia Tech, none of which I think could even come close to touching Georgia. And so I think Georgia right now might have the best odds in the country to go undefeated because Oklahoma's got to deal with Iowa State. That's going to be a tough game, regardless of what you want to say. And I think Alabama also Alabama will probably be a close second, but I think Clemson also has to deal with North Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, but what were the odds, bro?
So, okay, before today, Georgia was plus 700 to win the national championship. Pretty good odds. Like, I think they had like I want to say the fourth best odds in the country. Yeah, right behind Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama. Now they're plus 500. They dropped 200 points right here, Zach. That's a lot. That's a lot of a line to move in one day over two players. But it makes sense. Right now they're plus 500 on FanDuel. 1-800-GAMBLER if you have an issue. But remember, gamble responsibly. Just do that.
Yeah. I mean, so their two biggest needs coming in, corner was one, and another target for JT Daniels was two. They solved it with one big swing in a 30-minute period on a Tuesday afternoon. Arik Gilbert, Derion Kendrick headed to Georgia. Man, comment below what y'all think. Is Georgia now the favorite for the national championship? Are they favorite for the SEC? Comment below as well. Me and B-Dub will keep our nose. I mean, I don't think this transfer portal thing's done, man. It's going to keep coming. So there'll be huge transfer things coming up.
Right. And Zach, real quick before we end, I just want to touch on it real quick. Arik Gilbert did have academic eligibility issues. Like Zach said, he doesn't think he would have committed to Georgia if he thought that was an issue. I don't think it's going to be an issue. We should definitely see him suit up week 1 against Clemson. But yeah, I know we kind of teased it. We never really touched on it.
Yeah, forgot about that. But yeah, so we'll keep a word on that. We'll talk about that when it comes out. But I'm pretty sure he's going to be eligible. He'll be on the field week 1 against Clemson. That week 1 matchup has become even bigger, guys. We can't wait for college football under 100 days. So make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on all things college football, man. Make sure to subscribe now. Like this video. Give it a thumbs up. We had breaking news episode yesterday. Dalen Baldwin entering the transfer portal from Jackson State. Check that out. We also had our Oregon State interview as we've wrapped up our Pac-12 in 31 days with Brendan Slaughter from Oregon State. And today we have the voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham, on the podcast, man. Make sure to go check that out. Huge interview there. Awesome to have him on the podcast. And we have many more episodes coming later this week. Mississippi State will be the next one up. And then to kick off next week, Arkansas will be the next one. So make sure to check those out. Guys, it might be the off season, but it's not the off season here on the Blue Bloods, man. Content every single day, Monday through Friday, the 2-minute drill right here on YouTube. But for your boy B-Dub, myself, the Blue Bloods, and the 2-minute drill, man, we are out.